And now we're back to the splash screen of Photoshop. If you have Photoshop already, you probably can skip this part because you may already know how to create the document that you're looking for. You'll notice in the splash screen you get a lot of really user-friendly choices, and these are really designed for the everyday consumer. Most professionals kind of bypass this and have their own organizational systems that they can rely on. I want to make a new file, so I'm going to click on the new file button just to show you guys how it's done. And I usually just kind of get rid of all this kind of visual busyness. There are some what are called default choices that you can make. In this case, they have a 5x7 at 300 pixels per inch, which is more or less the same size as like a school portrait. But I want to make something that's 12 inches by 12 inches, and you'll notice what I'm doing is I'm selecting and I'm just typing in the inches. Sometimes it used to default to pixels, so if you have pixels in there, just make sure you have you click on the show more arrow, and then it shows inches. And then pixels per inch, I designated 200 dpi, and that's kind of a nice even number for mediocre print quality. And I'll go over print quality in a bit, but this will get you a decently printed thing that you may or may not notice the difference in the resolution at 200 to 300 on a printer at home, but you will notice it if you go to a commercial printer. The color mode is the way Photoshop handles the color in your document. RGB, which stands for red, green, and blue. Red, green, and blue are the diodes in the color model that is used by the monitor to represent color with different frequencies of light. CMYK color, if I click on CMYK color, oops, it instantly bumps me out because it thinks I'm making something for print. CMYK color space is a document that deals with color not in red, greens, and blues, which is an additive color model, but it pretends that the colors that you're using there are combinations of ink. And the inks that are commonly used in commercial printing are cyan, hence the C, magenta, which is the M, Y is yellow, and K is universal for black. If you're doing something grayscale, or if you want to grayscale it later, you can do that. I recommend doing that first. Grayscaling later. And lab color I won't cover in this class, but that is lightness in the AB spectrums in a European color model. So depending if you're in Europe, maybe working, they use lab more, I'm not sure. All right, so now that I have, I'm going to keep my working space. Whoops, sorry guys, these are different types of ink profiles, and since, good grief, there we go, RGB. And when it's RGB, this kind of thing doesn't really matter. Oops, sorry, this it does actually matter for your color representation. Sorry. So ordinarily, if a CMYK document is picked and the working RGB, you usually want a working RGB to match more or less the colors that you're going to have printed. Most monitors can represent like billions of color combinations that are unprintable. So it's important that you match your screen color mode to the one that would closely visually match what you're looking for in the end. In this case, sRGB is a very wide spectrum RGB. Most people use the Apple RGB. Color Match is ordinarily used for, it's an RGB color mode that closely resembles cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. But I'm just going to go ahead and use Apple RGB and create. So now I have a blank document, and the first thing that I want to do once I have my document created is I want to import my assets, or the images that I want to use to composite onto this. And so in order to do that, what I'd like to do is there's a variety of ways I can do that.